I'm excited to show you Patty, the parent-teacher conference helper doll that I just invented. I put a microchip in her head, and when you shake her, she says something the parent might say at a parent-teacher conference that's going to get you off track and surprise you, and then you can address Patty and come up with a good answer, so that way you're not surprised. Watch, this is how it works.
We think Billy is gifted. Can we get him tested to be in the gifted program?
Billy gifted? He is gifted, all right. You know what he's gifted at? Losing his lunchbox a single day. He also comes to school a single day with his shoes on the wrong feet. He's really gifted at running into the walls when he walks down the hallway. You think that's gifted? I'm not sure that's a sign of giftedness. See, that's very inappropriate to say to a parent, even if you think it might be true. So if you shake her head, Patty will give you a good answer. Watch what happens.
What you should have said is Billy is special in many ways. We can certainly look into that.
Well, I guess that is a much better thing to say to a parent. Let's give another suggestion about something a parent might say.
We don't have any bad behavior issues at home with Billy. Maybe you're not challenging him. Maybe he's bored in your classroom, and if you challenge him, he would have better behavior.
His behavior is because he's bored. You know what I saw yesterday after school? Him kicking and screaming at you because you forgot to put a Go-Gurt in his lunch. You know what his behavior issues are? You let him get away with whatever he wants to at home, and then he comes to school and thinks he can do the same thing. You want his behavior to improve. It don't have nothing to do with being challenged. Maybe you should work on his bad behavior at home. What do you think? So you can't really say that to a parent. It's not very nice. Let's see what Patty says.
What you should have said was, I've never made that observation. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
Well, that is a nicer thing to say. I hope that you will buy yourself a Patty parent-teacher conference helper doll. It'll help you get through some rough parent-teacher conferences for sure.
I would now like to introduce you to my colleague and fellow kindergarten teammate, Dana Quigg. Parent communication is crucial, and Dana has some great tools that she would like to share with you to help you establish a good relationship with the parents of your students. Please welcome Dana Quigg.
Hello, my name is Dana Quigg, and I'm also a kindergarten teacher here at Jacksonville Commons Elementary. So welcome, beginning teachers. We're glad to have you in the profession. I would like to talk to you about your parent communication toolbox, and one of the most important things that you can put in that toolbox are your own behaviors. So this slide is about the behaviors that you can do to enhance parent communication. As Jerry Brooks once said, carry a pacifier around with you to remind you that this is their baby. It doesn't matter what age group that you are with. It doesn't have to be our kindergartners. This is always going to be their baby. So always go into all of your communication with a parent remembering that this is their baby. So you need to communicate that you genuinely care for and like and enjoy their baby. So try to use the sandwich method, which is something positive, and then what the meat and potatoes of what you need to communicate, and then end with something positive about their child. So again, remember, this is always their baby. Goldilocks is a great story, but the wrong attitude. Angela Watson says in her 40-hour work week seminars that you might notice that Goldilocks wants things just right. Not too much, not too little, not too hot, not too cold. Oftentimes as teachers, we want parents to be not the helicopter and not the drill sergeant. We want them to be not overly involved and not under-involved. And unfortunately, again, Goldilocks, great story, not the right attitude to have with parents. Please remember that what you think might be just right may not be just right for them. Perhaps they can't be overly involved in your classroom because they're working 2 jobs. So just remember that just let go. Let go of your preconceptions and your biases. They're doing the best that they can for their child. And so you need to let go of any biases and think about what can I do to get the result that I want in my classroom, and then communicate what you're doing in your classroom to the parents, and then and ask for what you need from them, but don't go in there with an attitude of they should be doing this or they should be doing that. That's for Goldilocks and not for a classroom. Don't ever put a should on a parent. That's not your responsibility, and that's usually bias driven. So and you can look up Angela Watson and do a deeper dive into letting go of your own biases. And there are some of those resources in our resource page. There are some links to her podcasts and some additional resources that you can use for a deeper dive. But just remember, it's a great story. Wrong attitude. So don't go in there with they're doing too much, or they're doing too little. Just let that go. Create clear policies and communicate them to families from the beginning. Be very clear about your expectations. So I call this the ABCs and the GHEs. Make sure that you communicate all of your policies and procedures and expectations that are going to involve parents. And most of these are covered right here, but you may want to talk to your team, your school, and look over your student handbook and your district policies as well to make sure that you're on board with those before you send anything out to the parents. So make sure that you communicate attendance requirements. If they need to send in a note, if they're going to be out, how is that going to be communicated to you? Make that very clear to the families. Communicate your behavior expectations. Communicate that very clearly from the beginning, and make sure that if you're a PBIS school, that your plan is cohesive with what you're doing with your PBIS. If you're not a PBIS school, make sure that whatever you're doing is cohesive with your team. If you're going to go against what your team is doing and you're going to be an island that way, then just make sure that you can validate it, and that your administration is on board with it, what you're doing. So again, make sure that you are, whatever your behavior plans and attendance expectations are, please make sure that you are following your district or county guidelines, your school guidelines, and that you're following your team plan as well, your grade level team. Also, make sure that you communicate how you're going to conference with families, when that's going to happen, how it's going to be communicated. And then also your communication plan. And we're going to talk more about that later, about some great ways and some great strategies that you can communicate regularly with your families. Communicate your grading expectations. What is that going to look like? What are your grades going to look like? Communicate your homework expectations. Homework plays a big role in families' lives. So please think about that. Think about those families that may or may not be able to sit down with their children because they're working 2 jobs. And think about your homework expectations and then lay them out very clearly to the families. And then the et cetera that of course catches everything else that I may not have brought up depending on your grade level. Those littles are wanting to know how their children are getting snack, the visiting guidelines, all of those kinds of things. The smaller they are, the more they want to know about the day-to-day routines. The older they get, the more they want to know about things like parent portals, different things, computer guidelines, how are they going to pay for the insurance, payment plans, that kind of thing. So just be aware of what your grade level usually asks, and then put it in your expectations. And we have 2 resources for you in our additional resources page. One is the ABCs of first grade, which can easily be modified to your grade level and outlines several different policies and procedures. I've used that in the past. It was shared with me by a lady named Miss Marshall, who was one of the best teachers I've ever worked with. And we now bequeath it unto you to change and as you see fit. But always check with your admin to make sure that you are following school policies and procedures before you send anything out. I've also always attached a sign-up sheet. So parents can sign to say that they have seen it and agree to all of the expectations, and then they send it in, and I hold on to that for conferencing purposes. So you may want to consider that as well. We also included a link to an inexpensive Teachers Pay Teachers, one that uses a PowerPoint presentation, and it creates a flip book with the same information in there. So you may want to use one or the other. Both of them are inexpensive and easy to put out and very user-friendly. Okay, but whatever you do, make sure that you make your expectations clear from the beginning, that you send them out, and that you have a way to document that parents have seen it. Additionally, if you need to change those, and it's your prerogative, you need to be able to change. If your behavior expectations, your behavior plan needs to change in the middle of the year, you need to make some accommodations for your class, then that's fine. You're certainly allowed to make changes as you see fit with the kids in front of you. So if you do decide to make changes, just again, type it up, communicate it verbally in written format, send it out to the families and explain your situation. Hey, it's after the winter break and we need to revisit some things, so we're going to switch it up. Or, hey, the point system that we set up was not really working. We've run out of items in the school store, so we're going to need to change up this piece. Whatever you need to do, just communicate it clearly, send it out, and then again, I would have the families write that they have seen it and send it back to you, a signature form. Okay. Come on in. We're open. Be proactive in meeting family requests. There are often times when your first reaction to a family request is, what? That's a lot of work on my part. What? Or that's not what we agreed to, and the form that we just sent out that we just discussed and that you signed. But think about it. Come on in. We're open. Have a conversation. If it is a request that you could easily accommodate and it directly benefits the student, then let them know. Okay, that's not normally in our policies and procedures, but I'm going to do this for you this one time because it benefits your child. And then go with it. You don't have to always do the same things for every child. Remember the difference between equity and equality. So if a family that is divorced is asking for 2 folders and 2 take-home folders and 2 copies of things, that's just a simple extra copy that you can slide into an additional folder and send home 2 folders in their backpacks, one labeled mom and one labeled dad. These are things that could be easily accommodated. So by all means, meet their needs. And you want them to have the information. So yeah, let's do that. So find ways to meet families halfway, find ways to meet their reasonable requests, and also know that there are going to be families that want more. They want that extra mile. They want the additional information. And it's okay to say, you know what, let's set up a standing phone call every Friday, and I would love to chat with you every Friday about what's coming up, and I can give you that information during my planning time. Be proactive. So if you have a family that's going to need a little more, set up a time when you can give them a little more that meets your schedule. So find a way when you can to say yes. They will appreciate it, and you can build that relationship with that family that needs a little more for whatever reason. There are going to be times when those requests are not reasonable. And that's when Angela Watson in her 40-hour teacher work week, and I'm going to borrow her phrase and pass it along to you. She says, I wish I could say yes, but, and I love that phrase. So go ahead and practice that one in the mirror until you get really good at it. Because that's the stop sign. And that's the one that says, I'm going to have to put a boundary on this request. So when they make a request that you cannot meet, it's just simply not reasonable, then it's okay to put up a boundary and say, I wish I could say yes, but. I had that happen to me just recently where I had offered over quarantine to go visit a student in Raleigh, and I'm down in Jacksonville, which is about a 2-hour drive, and they wanted to change the date at the last minute. And I'm like, I wish I could say yes, but I already have a family obligation on that day. So I'm going to have to stick with our regular day, or I'm going to have to cancel. And they completely understood, and we were able to work out a different time on the original date. So just know that there are going to be times when you can't meet a request, and it's okay. It's okay to say no. It's okay to have boundaries on your own time. Okay, so those are some behaviors of yours that you can use to really establish great parent-teacher communication. So just remember, don't go into it with biases. Go into it thinking this is their baby, and use the sandwich method as much as you can to communicate things, because you always want to communicate that you care about their child. Always create clear policies and communicate them to families from the very beginning. Be proactive in meeting family requests. Always have that come in. We're open. I'm happy to meet you halfway attitude. And when you cannot meet them halfway, use a phrase that communicates that you care. I wish I could say yes, but. Right? Wonderful. Always remember, we are all in this together. So there are 3 sides to this triangle: parent, teacher, and student. You may know your classroom the best, but they know their baby the best. And so you always have to be thinking about how are the 3 of us working together to move this student forward in their educational life. And the minute that starts is on what we call our Meet the Teacher night. You might call it your open house night. It's whatever time is your first meeting with the parent. So whether you call it an open house or a Meet the Parent night or Meet the Teacher night, it's that first interaction that you're going to have with the parents. And so you want to start planning that appropriately. And so we're going to call it school open house on this slide. So make sure that all of your families are very clearly informed of when that's going to happen. Many schools allow you to include it in your take-home information or in your registration information. They'll allow you to put in a letter in with your school assignment and your school supply list. So take advantage of that time to introduce yourself and to let them know of the expectations. Put in a welcome letter. Include your contact information in that letter so that you are open and available right from the beginning. I've also seen a really neat idea where teachers have included a QR code, and on that QR code, they introduce themselves virtually. So they can do it either verbally, they can read the letter, or so they can at least hear their voices, or it goes to a website where you can introduce yourself, kind of like in the frame where I am right now. When you go to your school open house, it is really important that you think about what keeps you organized as a teacher and successful, and then help the families follow those same kind of guidelines. So one of the things that we do that's been very successful on our school open house night is to put out a folder, and a pocket folder, and on one side is the information that they're going to take home with them, and on the other side is all of the forms that they need to fill out. And we paperclip the non-negotiable forms. Those are non-negotiable. I have to have them in my hand before you leave tonight. And the rest of them you can fill out and return on the first day. Be very selective about what you choose to have be your non-negotiables. Your non-negotiables are going to include the parent contact information. You need that from jump. their transportation information. How is this child getting home? And then any medical information or any information that your school or district says you have to have on open house night. It's not negotiable. So put those together, and then the rest of the forms that you could potentially wait until the first day of school, let them take them home. And the reason that I say that is for a couple of reasons, actually. One is that a lot of districts schedule open house nights in different schools for the same evening. And so if your district is like that, you may have a family that has to go to 3 schools in a 2-hour period. So you want to make things as efficient as possible for those families. Just communicate from the very beginning, I am respectful of your time. So paperclip the non-negotiables together and let them know. No worries. If you have any questions about the forms, you have my contact information. Another thing that I have seen done to great effect is to put a label on the inside of the folder with all of your contact information. That way, they keep the papers that they need, they keep your contact information, and they keep it all year long. It's always available. The other thing I have seen to great effect is to put your contact information on that same label and back it with a business card magnet. So, and those can be done very inexpensively. You can buy them in bulk as a grade level. And that way they always have your contact information, and they can keep it right there on the fridge, and they can always get in contact with you. So again, think of the things that you do to stay organized, and then pass it along to the families to help them start the year off organized. So please complete Now folder and the Take Home folder. It doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to go raid your office supply store of expensive 2-pocket folders. You can always put the take home information in one piece of construction paper, and then the Please Complete Now folder in one piece of construction paper, and label them with a Sharpie. It does not have to be expensive. It just needs to be organized. The other thing that you want to think about are the people that have young ones coming in, and what are those little hands going to be doing during your open house. So consider that, and then have supplies available. Also, the more organized you can be, the better. So have a scavenger hunt for the child so that they know where to put their supplies, how to organize themselves, so that the families have time to fill out all of those papers that you just gave them. If you are going to combine your parent information night and your school open house night, so you have to convey a lot of information at the same time, but you are going to be running around trying to help with forms, trying to tell them their bus numbers. If you know that you're going to be pulled in a lot of different directions and you're not going to have time to stand up at the front and deliver a lot of information about the classroom expectations, that is a smart time to put on a PowerPoint of the expectations for the school year and have it running on continuous loop. That way, your PowerPoint is running, your expectations are being conveyed, the families can fill it out. If they missed anything, they can catch it in the next loop. So be thinking about ways that you can be organized and mobile during your school open house. Make sure you greet every single family. And also, as a tip from a veteran to you, please carry around a clipboard with your class list so that you can write any family notes. Families are going to want to tell you a lot of information that night about their baby. They're going to want to let you know that their child may or may not have allergies, that their child may or may not have an IEP in another county, that their child may or may not get along with so-and-so that they just saw their name on a name tag. You're going to want to jot all of this information down, and you will not remember it after greeting 20 to 40 to 120 kids and their families. You're going to want to change a couple of name tags after you find out that they were misspelled in Power School. It happens. So make sure that you carry that around with you so that you can follow up the next day on anything you told the families you were going to do. Make yourself a checklist and follow up on every single thing you promised that family you were going to do. That establishes a critical piece of your relationship. When you say you're going to do something, they want to see that you have followed up on it. And in a slide a little bit later, Mr. Gordon is going to tell you about some pieces that you can have available for communication. And one of them that we use is Class Dojo. He's going to tell you a little bit more about that. Regardless of what you use, go ahead and send them a little note saying, "So nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming. And I followed up on XYZ. It's all fixed." Or, "I followed up on your bus number. It's going to be blank and your bus stop is blank." So please just know that that kind of follow-up is what lets them trust you. And that's what you're building in school open house night or parent or meet the teacher night or whatever you're going to call it. That's what you need to be doing. Okay. So organization, communication, follow-up, critical pieces. And if you know that you're not going to have a parent information night coming up, I recommend, it's optional, but I highly recommend that you have a PowerPoint made ahead of time of your expectations on loop. I also highly recommend that you plan ahead of time what you're going to do for the little hands so that they can also be organized that night. They can have activities, and plan for little ones. Young toddlers often come along, and then young toddlers can often take family focus away from those papers that they need to be filling out. If you happen to have things that are safe for them to do, then please let the families know that this is a safe activity for your toddler. Don't give them any chokables. Don't give them anything that could hurt them. Have the activities that are safe just for them aside. There are also excellent resources available for school open house, and we will have some tips and tricks for you in our additional resources as well. Thank you, and best wishes in establishing great communication with your families this year.
Hello again. An organizational tool that we use here at our school is called an Avid take-home binder. This is a 3-ring binder that the students use every day to help them develop organizational skills and to learn responsibility. It is used as a means of communication between home and school. One way we use this binder is to help eliminate the loss of any notes that may be coming in from home or from the parents. It's also used to organize calendars and homework, as well as keep the parents and the students informed of important events that may be going on at the school, as well as any academic progress. So let's go ahead and take a look at the different parts of our Avid take-home binders. Inside the front cover, you'll find the first pocket labeled Important Papers. This is the section where you'll send home any letters from the school, progress reports, report cards, any papers that may require a signature or to be filled out and sent back to school. This is where you'll find those papers. This is also where the parent, after filling out the form or signing the report card envelope, will put those back in that pocket for you to look for the next day. We also see a zippered pencil pouch. This is where any note that the parent is sending in, any money to pay for school fees, school lunches, say their child wants a snack at lunch, this is where they'll put that money so that it doesn't get lost. This is where we'll send home if it's money that needs receipted, if it's a school fee, something like that, that we have to fill out a receipt for. We'll slide that receipt back in that zippered pocket so that also that doesn't get lost on the way home. On this page of the Avid Take-Home Binder, we can find the monthly behavior calendar. This particular calendar is used as a classroom management tool. The students earn points throughout the day for things like good behavior, following classroom rules, and completing their work on time. The points can be given and can be taken away. Discipline colors are then assigned based on the amount of points they have earned throughout the day. The students can earn either a green color, a yellow color, or a red color. If you look down at the bottom corner, you'll see a rubric for what each color means. To earn a green color, the student had to earn 6 or more points throughout the day. If they earned 3 to 5 points throughout the day, they go home on a yellow color, which means that the student had some struggles throughout the day. If they only earned 0 to 2 points in a day, they go home on a red. That means that the student's behavior needs to improve. The discipline color will go home to the parents. They will look at their discipline calendar, look at the amount of points that they've earned throughout the day. They will then initial inside the box. That then tells the teacher the next day when they look through the binder that the parent saw the point number, understands the discipline color, and acknowledged it with the student and initialed it so that the teacher knows that it was acknowledged at home as well. Next up is the section of the Avid Take-Home Binder where the teacher will explain the discipline policy to the parent. They keep it in their binder to reference it as needed. Also, we see a homework policy. This particular teacher sends home sight words and bag books weekly to be practiced every night. This is an explanation of the homework policy and her expectations from each student and parent. Here we are looking at the completed work folder. This is for parents to check daily for any completed classwork or items that are in their child's mailbox. The parents are to check the folders daily and keep any items from it at home. And finally, we come to the homework folder. This is the folder where any homework will be sent home to be completed. The parent is to check the folder for any homework that has been assigned. Once the homework is complete, it is put back in the homework folder and returned to school the next day or whenever it may be due. Best practice is to have a designated spot for the student to put their homework in the morning while they are putting their belongings away. It's part of a good routine. It helps to establish organization for the students as well as responsibilities.
Hi, I'm Christopher Gordon, and I am also a kindergarten teacher here at Jacksonville Commons Elementary School. I'm going to talk to you about another important part of communication, making phone calls or making contact with parents. So the good news, or some good news that you want to share, is within probably the first 2 weeks of school, you want to call the parents and tell them something good about their child and something that they did, because parents are used to stereotypically saying, used to getting kind of phone calls for bad reasons or, problems. So you kind of surprise them at first when you call them and say, hey, your child did something good at school. So kind of let them know, like I said, in the first 2 weeks of school, that something that they have done well. It could be something simple, could be something, more intricate or, more important. And that way you're kind of starting to build up that communication piece. And so when you do have to call them for something that might be negative, it may not be as bad and easier for a parent to take. So here is an example of, and you also want to keep a log or some kind of a record of the communication that you make. So this is just an example of something we use here. We can include the date, you want to include the student, how you contacted them, whether it was email, phone, maybe a note you sent home, maybe you had a meeting, or there may be other ways as well. And then your reason for calling or contacting, whether it be behavior, academics, something with routines, a positive contact, which is what we want to really, really focus on. You want to focus on those positive contacts because parents want to hear good things too. And then there's maybe other, and then you can kind of specify. And then in the last column, you would want to include maybe some notes, what you talked about. Now, the reason you want to kind of do this is so, maybe you talked about a certain subject about the child or a certain topic, and later on the parent says, well, I don't remember this. You have notes and you have a record of all the communication that you've made with the parents. Now, if you're like me, this graphic probably fits you real well. Things I'd rather do to make a phone call? Yeah, I'd probably be eaten by a dinosaur that shows no mercy, probably. However, there are other ways that you can communicate with parents. So if your kind of phone calls kind of make you a little bit nervous, there are other ways. Some of those ways you can do are Class Dojo, Remind, GroupMe. Google probably has some kind of program, but emails, text messages, any way you can find to communicate with these parents is important, okay? The main focus is that you are communicating with the parents. Phone calls are obviously kind of the best way because you kind of get that live interaction, but there are other ways as well. Sometimes you can't always get to a phone either. And so if you have the ability to use Class Dojo or Remind or GroupMe or whatever other platform that you use. Now, you also want to check with your school because your school may have a platform that they prefer, such as here we use Class Dojo a lot. It's a school-wide thing, but your school may be different, so always check with your school first before maybe signing up for a platform to use. And just kind of to end here, at the end of the day, the most overwhelmingly key to a child's success is the positive involvement of the parents. And how do you get the parents involved? You make those contacts. And like I said, important is to do good things as well as the negative, the positive and the negative. You want to always kind of do positive, 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 because like I said, you always hear stereotypically, those parents are constantly used to hearing like, oh, school's calling, what did you do wrong this time? Surprise them, make them happy, turn their thinking around to the fact that, okay, I'm getting a call from school. I wonder what my child did well, or I hope, I want to hear what he did or she did. All right. So important things are make those contacts as soon as you can, as soon as the school year starts, to start building that relationship with the parents.
Part of our job as educators is to be concerned with the whole child. It is so important to observe each child daily for any signs of distress and do anything that we can to help them. Our students rely on us to be a safe place for them. If you start to notice a student coming to school hungry or tired or acting out of the ordinary, you are going to want to contact the parent, showing them concern for their child and offering any needed assistance. This also includes contacting a parent in the event of an absence. You never know what is going on behind closed doors, so be sure to extend grace to the family. Be kind and be understanding. We as teachers have access to many resources set up to help families in need, if they choose to accept it. Schools provide guidance counselors and social workers who will travel out to the house and provide any needed assistance. Assure them that they are not alone in this. It truly does take a village to raise a child. There's a whole community of support to help you as the teacher and them as the parent. Also, remember to have a positive attitude so that they know that you care about them and that you care about their baby.
I'd like to give a tutorial to all parents, especially if you got a kid just going to school for the first year, like kindergarten parents. But I'd like to show you some very important things that you need to know about. First, this is the Capri Sun. It's juice in a bag. Let me give you a suggestion. If your child can't open this, don't send it to school. You see, it's very difficult to be able to do. You got to pull the straw off. Some of the kids can't even find the straw on here. And then you pull the straw off, and then you got to figure out which end, and this has got a pokey end in it, and you got to use the TP. That's hold your thumb T over here and poke it in the bag. Now, the first problem is the kids use the pokey end, and they do this, and then they're crying because they poke themselves with the Capri Sun straw. So you got to push your thumb up there and then squeeze the Capri Sun a little bit to push it out there and make it taut. That's a new vocabulary word you can use. And then you push it into the hole. If they don't use the thumb, it squirts. It's just crazy. If your child don't know how to use these, please don't send them to school. Here's another thing that I'd love for you to show your child. This is called a computer mouse. I know we used to use these when we was growing up, but the kids don't use them anymore. And guess what we have at school? Computer mouses. And unfortunately, we got some people in charge in the capitals and all over the place that are making us test our kindergartners the first 2 weeks of school. And they're tested on the computer mouse. So your child is trying to use their finger on the computer screen and it ain't working. Please get yourself a computer mouse. You can find them at the Goodwills or somewhere like that and teach your child how to use a computer mouse. Now here's another thing that I think you just you know about. It's called a Lunchable. I know you love these. I love these too. It's just quick and easy. You just throw your kid's name on there and go that. You don't even got to use a lunchbox. But I'd like to explain to you some of the things that your child cannot do. First of all, open this box. That's right, your child can't open this box, so we're going to open the box for them. Let me show you what your child cannot do. They can't open this. So we're going to open this for them. And so now we've opened this for your child because they couldn't open it. Look, I'm even having a hard time opening it. So we're going to open this for your child. Let me show you what else they can't do. Open this pizza sauce. So we're going to open their pizza sauce for them. Okay, let me show you what else your child can't do. They can't open the frosting for the delicious little cookie. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to open the frosting for them. Now we've opened all these things in the middle of a lunch duty. And let me show you what else is in here. A Capri Sun. Please, please, please rethink these. Here's the deal. If you're going to use this, have a family time the night before. Open up all the stuff and put it in Ziploc baggies. How fun is that going to be? What a great family time. And then the last thing I want to show you, you might not know about these. These are school calendars. Oh my goodness gracious, can you believe that? Or a single district or a single school has these on their websites. They'll print them for you. It's a school calendar. It tells you all the days we're in school and all the days we're out of school. Look at this one. I love this one. This one's color coordinated. I didn't print it color, but look at right here. These are the days we're going to be out of school. I love these school calendars because this will help you not to take a vacation day during the school year. I'm serious. I hope this tutorial has helped you. Have a great school year.
Thank you so much for spending the last hour with us. We hope that you've taken away some valuable information and that we have provided you with some helpful information. Attached is a list of websites and a toolbox of resources that we find helpful in our educational endeavors and that we hope you will find helpful in yours. On behalf of myself and my colleagues, we wish you the best of luck and hope that you enjoy the rest of the 2021 North Carolina Beginning Teachers Summit. Bye-bye.